About 5 times a night.
Cody wants the soup. I like Cody.
Frank and Kathie Lee Gifford were born on the same day, August 16th, 23 years apart. Short of their birthdays and their devotion to their son Cody, they would appear to have little in common. But you've got to get to know them. Frank Gifford was born 62 years ago, the son of an oil rigger who moved his family between boom towns across the Southwest and California. Frank was always the new kid on the block, always having to prove himself. He did it with a football. An athletic scholarship to USC paved the way for Frank to become an All-American offensive defensive back. He was also one of the best-looking men ever to run with a football. In 1952, he was picked as the #1 draft choice of the New York Giants and began his Hall of Fame career leading the team to division and world championships. At the same time, across the Atlantic, Kathie Lee Epstein was born in Paris, France, to a Jewish naval officer father and a Christian fundamentalist mother. Since Dad never practiced Judaism, Christianity dominated their Maryland home. The middle of 3 kids, she was a theatrical, emotional little sprite. Sarah Hotburn, her folks called her. With a strong will and voice, she set out for the footlights like something out of an old Judy Garland movie.
We're here to find out who.
Her eclectic career started with winning Maryland's Junior Miss Pageant and then taking the Kraft Hostess Award in the national contest, where she got to star in her first commercial.
I think advanced planning is the key to any great party. And with Kraft Foods, that's super easy.
Some fun.
She wasn't the only one reaching for the stars. Frank's rugged good looks could not be hidden under a helmet.
This is all the taste a smoker could want.
Then in 1960, a killer tackle nearly took his life, laying him out in the hospital for weeks with a deep brain concussion. It should have ended his career, but he came back 14 months later and played one of the best seasons of his life. Nothing could keep the Gifford down.
So many of us have looked at the adults who have come before us and...
Or, for that matter, the woman who'd later become his wife. At that Junior Miss Pageant, Kathie Lee met Anita Bryant, who took her under her wing, getting her a singing scholarship to Oral Roberts University.
Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, bring joy.
In Oral's World Action Singers, she traveled all over and became a committed voice for fundamentalist Christianity. She later married gospel musician-composer Paul Johnson, but it was a loveless marriage, and after 5.5 years, he left her. But not before she had found her true voice in the secular world. As the La La Girl on Name That Tune, she began a string of national shows that put her on the cusp of stardom.
Kathie Lee Johnson as Kathy Honey.
She played a singing country girl on Hee Haw Honeys.
Hi there. How are you feeling?
A nurse on Days of Our Lives.
Good morning, I'm Frank Gifford with Kathie Lee Johnson.
And most importantly, she became a fill-in host on Good Morning America, where one Thanksgiving she was seated alongside another substitute, Frank Gifford.
Kathy, good morning to you and happy Thanksgiving.
Good morning.
It was not love at first sight. In fact, it took about 2 or 3 dozen sightings. But 4 years later, they tied the knot in a small wedding and began what should have been a very quiet celebrity marriage. You see, when Frank retired from football, his career path was obvious, sportscasting. After a stint at CBS, he was lured away by ABC's Rue Knowledge to do the play-by-play on Monday Night Football, opposite 2 dynamic personalities, Don Meredith and Howard Purcell. 22 years later, Frank's the sole survivor. His secret seems to be in letting the game be the star, keeping his private life private, maintaining a dignified, quiet reserve. His wife, on the other hand...
I'm dripping with sweat, and in walks Frank with the neighbors that he's picked up for dinner.
Talk show great Regis Philbin was doing a local morning show in New York. After several years of playing musical co-host, Kathie Lee Johnson was hired.
I mean, it's kill or be killed out there. And, but that's the way I like it.
Looks gorgeous today, Green.
Ooh, I'm popping my buttons already here.
I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that show and her to fool around with every morning for the first 20 years.
Look who's here, Kathie Lee Gifford.
It shouldn't have worked. No lesbian strippers, no satanic cults. just an old-fashioned talk show.
You're all so much thinner in person.
But the ratings improved immediately when Kathie Lee came on board, and when the show went national, she found a receptive audience from coast to
My
coast.
husband all cuddled up watching the U.S. Open, and there you were. You are Mr. Gadabout.
She is the perfect foil for Philbin's demonstrative personality. She holds her own, dishes it back out, and has no problem, as she says, making a living by spilling her guts.
Well, you're breastfeeding, aren't you?
I was until I couldn't.
Oh, I see.
Didn't you notice the reduction in the northern hemisphere? My Twin Peaks are no longer.
In the morning, in the evening, ain't we got fun?
Certainly, the Gifford clan has missed few opportunities to capitalize on their fame. Numerous commercials, Kathie Lee's own clothing line, a current best-selling autobiography, a nightclub act, and a new album of classics.
And your hearts will fly.
Even a miscarriage this past August hasn't seemed to slow her down.
I don't know why that's funny.
The now famous Cody Gifford is actually Daddy Frank's fourth child. He was married twice before, but this is the first child he says he's really had enough time for.
We'll put him back, too, because we can need him next year, huh?
Put them in this water.
Their home is this lavishly remodeled and expanded Connecticut farmhouse on several lush acres. Plenty of room for the recently completed Fort Cody. Plenty of room for the pet bichon frisé. They go by the names Chardonnay and Chablis. Kathie Lee says that the only thing she's sure she does well is decorate. Her living environment is a decorator's showplace, from the bright music room to the warm dining room and atrium.
Are you warmer in the rain?
To the living room, which is actually the oldest room in the house, dating back to the 1760s.
I never thought Frank Gifford would want to sleep in this kind of a bed, all frou-frou and filled.
If you watch Live with Regis and Kathie Lee, then you know all about Cody.
He woke up crying the other night. I gave him one of his fire engines.
Maybe you think you know too much about Cody. It should be said, however, that when you are at the Gifford house, you begin to understand why his mother feels he's special. You also understand why this marriage is, too. The truth, okay? Do you watch Kathie Lee every morning?
I try not to. I don't have to watch it. I hear about it wherever I go.
Do you watch Monday Night Football every Monday?
Until we had a little boy, I did, didn't I, honey? At the very beginning. Things have changed a little around here, Barbara. We still love each other a lot, but we're more realistic about our relationship. When we were first together, first in love, Frank would rent anything that moved just to get home to me quickly. I would stay up, have a bottle of wine chilled, be in a negligee all powder puffed. Now it's like, and he comes in whenever he can.
Should also know the score when I got home, too.
Oh, now I have to ask my prop guys in the morning, who won?
Why do you feel that you have to discuss the most personal things? Is it just because you're with Regis? Is it a new, or were you always like this?
It's part of it, Regis. He brings out the worst in me. And yet I love it that he does, because it's fun. I would never do anything that I knowingly would hurt Frank or anybody else.
In your new book, in your autobiography, you say, I pray every morning, Lord, please don't let me hurt anyone with my mouth. Do you really get up every morning and say that?
I don't get up before I say it. Before my feet hit the ground, I say it, because I know this mouth very well. And I know what it's capable of. And I think if you know the heart behind the mouth, you can sort of accept it. In the dedication of the book, I say I dedicate it to Frank, who because he knows my heart so well, can forgive my mouth.
Kathie, many people don't know that you were married before, and that you married a man who was a gospel music composer named Paul Johnson.
Yes.
It sounds like a cold and empty marriage when one hears
it was a great friendship that should have remained a great friendship. It was a terrible marriage for both of us. We were both too young. We didn't know each other well enough. What we had in common was our faith, and that's not enough for a good marriage.
You write about this marriage, and as you write about it, it sounds as if you never had any sexual relations.
We attempted it. We tried to have that kind of a life together, but it just didn't happen for us. I think there are a lot of loveless marriages where there might even be affection, but it's not a passion. It's like it is with Frank and myself. Thank God I know what that's like now.
Let's talk about the two of you. It was not love at first sight. It really was a long, well, you tell me about it. A long
Well, it
courtship.
wasn't, she saw me first.
And that was love at first sight because he was leaning over a sink putting in his contact lenses, and I walked by and then I went, ooh. Didn't know those buns belonged to Frank.
I was filling in for David Hartman, Good Morning America. And Kathie was working on Good Morning America, and I'd watched her on the show, and I knew that this got to be the most perky thing that I've ever seen in my life. And she had this funny haircut, you know. She looked like Bobby Orr, the hockey player. I called her Helmet Head.
Yes, we got along just great at the beginning.
I could not believe anyone could be this up at, you know, you've done Good Morning America. I would rather do it on the way home than get up and go do it.
I did the Today Show for 15 years. I was up, but I wasn't perky.
Yes, unbelievable. And I was married, and she was going through a divorce, and over a period of several years, I tried to fix her up with a couple of my best friends. And contrary to what has been written and reported, we were not having an affair. It was not even so much of a thought of one.
We both were like wounded birds when we finally fell in love, and we healed together. And I not only fell in love again with a man and could trust again, but I fell in love with the Lord all over again too. I'll never forget the first time we went to church together, and it was so honest what we shared together, and it was a rediscovery. He's so sweet to me. I don't deserve this, but I'm keeping him anyway.
Listen, this is going to be one of the few interviews in which I cry. 22 years difference in your ages?
23.
23.
Exactly.
You're kind.
People like you and me have to stick together, friend. Did it bother you? Does it bother you?
Never, ever did. Not until we had Cody did we even think about it.
I thought about it. I couldn't say that I didn't. And in fact, you know, I even talked to Kathie about it. And I said, you know, this is kind of silly. And I said, and then again, you begin to add on to where we'll be in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years. And then again, like Kathie says, when Cody came along, and you know, it's kind of scary, but there is the downside of it. But I also have all this time with this little boy, and I get to do it over again.
Did you want this little boy? Did you want a baby?
No.
You had a grandchild.
It's hard for me to hear him say that.
No, well,
I know it's
no,
true.
she asked me if I wanted him then.
I know you want him now.
And what I could not say to her is don't have this child. Nor did I, and I told her that. I said, I can't tell you not to. I have 3 children, and now I have 5 grandchildren. At the time I had 3. And I said, I really don't need another child in my life. And laughingly, but she knew how I felt about it, but I also told her, I could never, ever tell you not to, nor will I. That's your choice. You deserve that in life, and that's what she wanted. And it was one of the great blessings in my life. And the downside, of course, is I won't have all of the years that a lot of people would have with their children. I know that. But hopefully I'll have enough that he will know and maybe even see this show someday, how much that I really love him and how much I wish him all the happiness that you can have in this world.
Do you want another child, Frank?
That's why they say she asks the tough questions.
We both, the biological clock is ticking. Mine's already talked, but hers is ticking.
You did pretty well, frankly.
Well, fortunately, for me, it doesn't work the same as for you, but she would like to have another baby. Again, that is her decision.
You know, people look at the two of you, and perhaps because you talk about it so much in the air, and you have so much together, and you are blessed. So I'm going to ask you a question that I ask often on interviews. What was the best time, I assume, is now, right?
It's awfully good.
I think Frank would, if he were really honest, would say the best time was the first year or 2 of our marriage.
That was great.
It's hard for him now not to have me completely to himself. We just sacrificed everything.
I didn't